Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season premiere of Riverdale. A fantastic season premiere. Riverdale has come back swinging just as hard as he did last season. So good. Obviously, picking up right after what happened in season one's finale. Archie rushing to get Fred to the hospital. It's so interesting seeing the episode progress, like during the whole like Fred thing. Like obviously there's outside things just like about like what's going on, trying to figure everything out. But you know, along with the characters, which I'll kind of break everything down what I'm talking about. But it just in general, just that side of things. But also like everything that's inside of Fred's head, like like it's all these moments, like Archie's graduation, Archie proposing and getting married to. Veronica passing on the business to Archie. It's just obviously everything's kind of like a metaphor for like, oh yeah, like it's your time, move on, you're no longer needed. But it's like, ultimately he's like, no, I have to come back. I have to protect my son. It's not my time yet. So I was actually scared because I didn't know which way that was going to go. Like I figured as much it was going to go that direction. It was also kind of interesting that there was a moment in his dreams where it's like, oh yeah, Archie's mom was sitting down with all the Blossoms on their side of things, which is just like, so interesting to me. I mean, they've always kind of referenced the fact that he does have red hair and everything. His mom has red hair, which is, I still think there's more to that. Maybe he's related to the Blossoms has kind of been my thought process. I mean, to be fair, like, if anyone's more related to the Blossoms, is actually Betty and her family are a lot closer. Well, Betty and Polly are a lot more closer because Hal is related to them. That's just that whole situation. Obviously, we went down that road last season, but it's just kind of it always, even last season, there was still something in the back of my mind. Like I don't know. The fact is, he's a redhead. Yes, his mom's red hair too, but it's just like to me, it's just too much of a coincidence. I always feel like he might be connected to the family too. Maybe that's not the case at all. It most likely ultimately won't be. But it's just kind of interesting that she had that particular placement instead of sitting anywhere. She just happened to be sitting there. So I don't know. But obviously, the big part of this is like Archie struggling with everything. I mean, he's still walking around his jacket and his shirt soaked with his dad's blood, and everyone's come together. Veronica, Betty, and Jug are all there for him. Even like the football team, as well as even the Pussycats show up to kind of give him this support. Everyone's just coming out, just it's like because this is a big tragedy all over again. Because especially because it's affecting someone that. They like, I don't know. I feel like it's similar to the whole Jason situation, but I feel like it's very different at the same time too. I don't really know how to like put it into words of what I mean, but it's different, the entire time you could tell Archie wasn't telling everyone everything, which I kind of already got spoiled on it because I was like, because of previews and stuff like that. I was like, oh, so I already knew that the killer had the robber had already put a gun to Archie's head. I already saw that coming. So, but I was like, the entire time, I was like, you could tell by the way he's acting, like he wants to say something, but he just can't bring himself to say it. And the sad thing is, the reason why he didn't say anything is because he felt like a coward. It's like his dad got shot, and he's like, I could have done something. I could have went to my dad's side and immediately took care of him. I could have, tackled the guy, did something, wrestled a gun away from him. But it's like, he's like, I closed my eyes, and he's like, I'm a coward. It's like, you're not a coward, dude. Any normal person would freeze in that situation. I mean, that's hindsight's 2020. Like, and not always in a positive way. It can tend to be a negative way too, because it's like, you think you should have done more, you could have done. It's like, no, you're only one person in that situation. Your dad's bleeding. It's a scary situation. So, and it's sad that he felt like he needed to hide that, and the entire time it's like, oh man, like especially when Jughead was giving him compliments. So first you saved Cheryl, last season, and now it's like you're saving your dad. It's like, oh, we might as well be calling you a superhero. I'm sure he felt guilt over that too, because it made him go like, no, because I was, he was, like I said, he was too ashamed of himself to admit it, but like there's nothing to be ashamed of. Which Archie himself made a promise that's like, no, Dad, I'm gonna protect you. Which his dad was like, I came back so I could protect you. But Archie is going to keep that promise because you see it at the end of the episode. And that's something I kind of picked up from the trailers that I thought was so interesting. Is the fact is that he's like ready. He's like protecting. I'm going to keep that promise. Also, interestingly enough, his mom is back in town, which means his mom will probably be floating around the Riverdale a lot more, especially, while Fred is trying to recover and everything. God, there's so much good stuff that went down in this episode because everyone's dealing with their own issues at the very beginning. Veronica's dealing with the whole situation. Her dad's coming back home soon. Her mom's kind of snipping at her about that. There's the whole snake, the Southside snake situation, serpents. I don't know, the whole serpent situation with Jughead. And because also like Betty let her mom know about that, and then her mom doing, the typical thing that Alice does, she kind of jumped on Jughead about it at the hospital, and it's just like, this isn't really the time for doing this, which in itself turns into a question of like, well, where do you stand with this whole situation, Jughead? Jughead is like, I'm not going to follow down the same path as my dad. I'm only doing this, like, going back to the trailer, wearing this jacket, riding the bike, that was kind of interesting. Because Jughead never seemed like the type, but to see him get on a bike and even have Betty riding on it, too, it was just, him, it's like, oh, it's all about being closer to his dad because, it put things in perspective because, like, Archie was close to losing his dad, and his dad's going to go away to jail for a long time, sorry. So, it's just, I don't know. Whether or not that's 100% true or not, I think there is a little bit. And even Betty is worried about it because she sees it a little bit. It's like, you put on that jacket, you weren't faking it in front of those serpents. You smiled because you actually kind of enjoyed it. She's like, it literally saying it felt like a second skin to it. So it does seem like there might be a little, and that might be something we dive in further. This, because maybe, and it's something that has to do with Jughead's family. It's just like there's that little tad bit of darkness in them, and maybe that's what this season's going to be about, Jughead dealing with that, especially because he's getting mixed up with the serpents, because the serpents are like, don't matter if you're not a serpent, even if you don't wear that jacket, you will always be a serpent. It's like, obviously, like, now that JP's, is it JP or FP? It's FP, right? Yeah. Is in prison, they're looking to him, and it's almost interesting because you have Jughead like, okay, find out about this whole thing that happened with Fred, like almost barking orders a little. I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting seeing him in that position. And even Kevin's like, don't do this, Betty. She's like, what? He's like, you saw what happened to me and Joaquin. And it's like, well, Joaquin was fine. It's like, yeah, but he was throwing away dead bodies and mopping up blood. So it's like he did something, like essentially saying, be careful, because once you go down that route, things aren't going to be that easy. Granted, Betty's going to give him the benefit of the doubt. I caught glimpses of stuff here and there, like way before now, about like certain things that might pop up this season, which obviously for spoiler reasons, I won't go into it all, because it's like, oh, just in case there's anyone that's like, hey, I want to be surprised when certain elements come up. But there's a certain element I thought was kind of interesting. Specifically, it's connected to Jughead and Betty, but I don't, who knows how true it is, whether, like, it depends on, like I said, it was something I read a while back, so I don't know if it's going to be something that they actually decided to completely go through with in this season, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see in that regard. But I am curious to see where Jughead's story takes him this season, especially if he does get kind of swept up into darkness, that Betty's kind of like almost like a detective in the show, because the fact of the matter is she doesn't stop digging. She's always searching for the truth. So it's like when your girlfriend's kind of like that, like, I'm curious to see what's going to happen with him balancing possibly the serpent life along with his relationship with Betty, because it's like to have one would mean most definitely giving up another one, especially considering Alice isn't going to let that stand, so also, and maybe last season brought that up, but I can't remember where Hal and Alice stand. I mean, because Hal was at the hospital too, so it seems like, I think they were back on good to decent terms. I don't know. It was just something that was interestingly like popping up in my head. Also, what about Polly, dude? We didn't see hide nor hair of her during this whole incident neither, so that might just be kind of a story element all on its own. But nevertheless, it's just kind of, because I don't remember, did anything happen that correlated to her like not being in her story right now? Maybe it's just kind of a situation of like I said, her story's kind of being set off kind of like almost like behind, like while everything is happening here, like her story and other people's story we might not have necessarily seen are happening over here, but nevertheless. But also in this, you also do have like Veronica's story, like her growth in this episode, and it's a combination of just how much she's changed since coming to Riverdale, plus to where she is right now. Just the fact of the matter is, she was scared. She was like, I don't know how to help Archie. It's like she's like, I'm the girlfriend, yes, but I don't know how to be there. To kind of be that shoulder that someone can lean on and cry on, where she's ultimately there for Archie, because she was so scared that she wasn't going to be able to do that for him, that she'd let him down. But ultimately she came through, like, even when he was pushing her away, she was going to walk away, but then she didn't, so I think she doesn't really have to worry in that department, which that whole situation makes me feel a little bit better. There's a little bit of a thing that crossed my mind that kind of made me go, ugh, in the sense of like, oh, I feel a little bad. Is like the fact is, who's the first person that Archie called during this whole situation? He called Betty. He didn't call Veronica first. I know, but it's just like that's still something in the back of my mind that's going to be an issue. That's going to play a role this season. It has to. Like I just have that inkling. Why? Because it's with romance stuff like this, it's just. Things don't always work out the way there's like, especially in the sense of the kind of show Riverdale is. It's like there's no happy endings per se in this scenario. So, but the other thing she did I thought was like so badass is calling out her mom, because she was talking to her mom like, oh yeah, the fact of the matter is this might have been a hit on Fred. I wonder who would have done that. Even you yourself said that dad and him wouldn't have gotten along and everything. You're trying to buy his business from him. And then I was like, oh yeah, you're pointing it at your dad. But then she's like, yeah, no, I wasn't thinking dad. I was thinking you. I was like, what? She calling out her mom. Like, I love that. I didn't see that coming. But because I like that too. And, especially because the way it seems like they're doing interesting things with Hermione this season too. Because like first season, she seemed very like reluctant in everything she did. Like, okay, we have to do this and do that. She cared about Fred, but at the same time, there's the whole situation with the marriage, and just like she seemed very kind-hearted, just kind of like caught in a terrible position. But it's like it seems like this season setting her up to be like maybe she's not just a kind-hearted person we think she is. I mean, obviously we saw a lot of the like back alley shady dealings that she was doing, like that whole like trying to buy up the the theater place that not theater, the drive-in movie place that Jughead was staying last season. She bought that up all just to kind of give the middle finger to the Blossoms so they wouldn't happen and stuff like that. So, like I said, there's a whole thing. Yes, she was acting on her Hiram's behalf, but still there's that element. Which her response was like, how dare you? The fact of the matter is, you are a lodge above anything else. So fall back in line, know your place. And she's like, because effectively, like, she's like, I won't handle this disobedience any longer. And she's like, I should slap you for what she said. But she's like, I'm not a violent person. It's like, dude, like I said, the venom. It's like, I don't know. Like, it's just like I said, like we're seeing a different side of her. And I think that's so interesting going into this season, because I don't think that she was behind Fred like getting shot, her or Hiram. Were they hoping in some level, on some shape or form, because they were going to benefit from it? I think so, sure, but I don't think they're the ones behind it. But it's so interesting because it's like when like Veronica breaks the news to him, it's like, oh, in case either one of you want to know, Fred is going to be okay. There is kind of a smile that went across Hermione's face, so it seemed like maybe there is a part of her that is happy. Like maybe she's keeping up this front because she can't let herself be who she is. Like she's trying to get Veronica back in line, because it's like, hey, I'm gonna be the bad guy in this situation, so you don't get caught up with the even worse guy being her dad. So it's like, I need you to fall back in line so everything can be okay until maybe Hermione can find a way out of this particular situation, get from underneath her husband, or and Veronica they can all get from underneath Hiram's thumb, or essentially. That's where my mind is on that. But it looked like she had a smile on her face, or maybe that smile was just kind of like a trying to pretend like everything's okay. It could be. The thing is, it could be either way in this situation. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like I said, I'm very interested to see what goes down, because Veronica's kind of been very like, especially her relationship with her mom has been very up and down, especially last season, but even more so now, when it's like, I kind of suspect you're behind like my boyfriend's dad getting shot and almost trying to kill him. So there's that. Especially her dad's back, and she knows her dad had a lot of, because that turned out to be Cliff, who sent those people to destroy Fred's machines and stuff like that, wasn't it? Or was that Hiram? I can't remember who did that. It was either one of them. Like, it's like this whole circumstance it's not like they're all innocent. Like, they all had a part to play in everything. But the real surprise is Cheryl. They really kicked up the creepiness when it came to Cheryl. It's like, oh, her mom walks in, which is, I saw that from the trailer. Like, her mom's, well, not walked in, she got strolled in because she's all in bandages because she got super burned. I was like, what happened to her? And it's like, and just Cheryl spinning this lie, because we as the audience know that she burnt down like the Thornhill estate or whatever. And it's like, oh no, don't worry, Mom, I was asleep when everything happened. It might have been an accident. Candle blew over and lit the whole place up. It's like, oh, Mom rushed in to save me, but she suffered third-degree burns. When in actuality, We know you and your mom were on the outside when it was up in flames. So I was like, your mom ran back in there for some valuables. Apparently, it was specifically a painting in regard that she did it. But then Cheryl's just like, oh, my mom. And she has a smile on her face. Like, so what are you doing here? And you see Kevin, like, grabbing, like, Betty, kind of almost pulling her closer, like, almost like he was scared. It was like, she's super creepy in this episode, just kind of like all happy and ha ha ha. And then she talks to her mom and she's like, Mom, which we know her mom kind of abused her last season because it's like emotional and mental abuse, kind of putting her down, making her feel, you know, kind of like know your place type of thing. Like she's not a good mom. And, like squeezing her air tube and being like, you won't eat, you won't breathe, you won't drink unless it's my decision that you get to. She's like, so things are going to be a lot different now, Mommy. And it's like, oh, you're so scary, Sharon. I love it. It's so interesting because like Cheryl's already kind of very disturbing character, especially in the first season. But now it feels like they like kicked it up big time, especially when she goes in to give like the kiss of life to Fred, and then Archie's like, what are you doing? She's like, you gave me the kiss of life, you know, when he saved her last season. She's like, I'm just repaying a favor. Okay, toodles, and just walks away. I was like, God, you're so, I was like, I literally audibly shouted out loud. I was like, God, you're so creepy, Cheryl. That's wow. And kind of the flip side of that, I love that whole conversation where Betty and Jug went to go check on Pops to try and find Fred's wallet, and then there's that whole conversation. Pops is like, it's like the angel of death came to Riverdale, and it's like all heavy and deep and eerie music playing, and then it cuts to Jughead being like, geez, Pops, lighten up. I laughed a little bit. I don't know whether they meant it to be like that, but that hard cut, like that was so good. It was perfectly timed. It caught me off guard because it's like I said, this dark eerie moment, and it's lighten up, Pops. It was so good. Gosh, like I said, this season hit us hard with just such good, like, you know, setup for this season for everyone all across the board. Interestingly enough, we had that final shot at the end to kind of be like, boom, as we see Grundy, the teacher that Archie was sleeping with last season, well, fell in love with, which turns out she's actually in a new place having a relationship with another student. So it's like, they were kind of labeling her as a predator, which she basically is, because it's like, it's not like, oh, Archie, you were just a one-time thing. Oh, I'm so in love. You kind of had a feeling just the way she looked. She kind of had a smile on her face when she was leaving, almost just kind of like, well, I got away from it A-okay. Everything was fine. But it's like, we see that she was with another student. I'm sure that's going to come up like when that whole situation gets revealed about what happened to her. But turns out she got killed. So why specifically did? I don't know. Like, is it... Because it seems like more so, what do these people have in common? Like, at the very least, everything they have in common is Archie. So maybe Archie was actually the target. But I don't know. I mean, it seems like Fred was the target. Then why go after Grundy? Not less Grundy, like, because she's in a town called Greendale, and maybe it's because Grundy was secret. I mean, we don't know what she's actually, and maybe that's something we'll see going forward too. Is like what she was up to, like subsequently since she got fired and basically run out of town, out of Riverdale. So that's just kind of interesting because it's like, I did not expect, like I was like, oh, somebody's, you know, it's like, oh, the killer, you know, you have that VO from Jughead being like, oh, the killer is already like basically still preparing for something else. I was like, oh, did not expect it to be Grundy that ends up like being his next target. So, and it's kind of brutal too. Like, I don't know whether it looked like it was something sharp because whatever it is he was pressing against her neck, it cut her throat and she started bleeding all over herself. So that was pretty brutal. Who is this hired gun? Who do they work for? What this is all about? Don't know. The mystery is just getting started. I am so excited to see what this season has in store for us. Like I said, season 1 was ridiculously good with all its twists and turns. A lot of that did not see coming. And so I'm curious. I can't wait to see what they kind of throw our way this season. But really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.